How you going? I'm Mixy. Thank God Christmas and New Year's are over so I can finally get stuck into these reviews. Today it's Season 2, Episode 3 of Fallout, and this might be my favourite episode of the series so far. It just feels like a little more happens in this episode. You could make the argument that maybe a little bit too much happens in this episode, but at least my interest was held. After Kumail Nanjiani's appearance in the last episode, we have another celebrity cameo. There's some interesting scenes with Cooper Howard. His backstory gets a little bit more fleshed out. And while there's a few massively dumb parts of this episode, there's a lot fewer character assassinations. But anyway, let's get stuck into it. Here we go. Spoilers! So the previously on segment kind of spoils the episode a little bit, because it shows who's appearing in this episode. Thaddeus, who hasn't been in the series so far this season, is featured in the previously on segment, which clearly lets us know that he's going to be in this episode. Thankfully, he's in it right away. So Thaddeus is operating a Sunset Sarsaparilla bottling facility that's manned entirely by children. I don't know where he's getting the Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles from. Is this factory producing them, or is it just unloading them from a truck or a railway carriage? What's the go? Stop thinking about it, you're wasting time. Alright, that entire scene was just ridiculous. Lucy's being brought to the Legion's camp and immediately they brought her before baby Lennius. He's so cute! Who instructs the slave girl to be executed. I mean, what did she expect? I don't understand why she was so enthusiastic to go back. So this version of Lennius is played by Macaulay Culkin. This has to be one of the most poorly cast characters I've ever seen. Macaulay Culkin acts like a little simp. He would be chewed up and spat out by the real Legion. Pathetic. How dare you address the great Kaiser? What a wimpy voice.
Sir, how dare you address the great Kaiser?
So he tells her to not address Kaiser, but then she continues to address Kaiser and he just stands there instead of shooting her, slapping her, or pushing her to the ground. I guess the guy playing Kaiser must have been hired in a non-speaking role. Oh my god, that pussy little sneer that Macaulay Culkin has. That's a very punchable face. I don't know why they're explaining the entire plot to her while they're leading her off to be crucified. I suppose it's for the viewer's benefit. So the Legion is split in two. The last Kaiser died and had his will on him, which named his successor, but he's in no man's land between the two warring factions. They don't explain how the corpse got into no man's land. So allegedly after the death of the last Kaiser, so therefore when he died, there wouldn't have been two factions. There would have been one faction when he died, so there wouldn't yet be a no man's land for him to die in. It's stupid. So the first time that I watched this episode, I assumed that the guy that was in no man's land was the successor of Edward Sallow. But on re-watching it, Macaulay Culkin says that the founder of the Legion is the guy that's in no man's land. So it is the Kaiser from Fallout New Vegas. Unless, of course, the successor rewrote history and claimed that he was the true founder. We'll never know. Why would these factions not allow the other one to retrieve the corpse? Just agree on a date and time that we're gonna check the note and whoever's name on it is the true Kaiser. But I guess this is just how they wrote this episode, so that's the end of it. I still don't know why they're talking to her like she's a human being. They should be shutting her up, and then they treat getting crucified like it's a joke. Nothing is taken seriously in this show. The whole show is a joke. It's not even funny. It's written by Z-list comedians. Now what is funny is Macaulay Culkin's delivery of the line, "only strength," while he minces off.
Only strength.
I do appreciate that they gave Lucy a dead finger. The one that got cut off. That's some good attention to detail. I hate that ghoul motif. Hey, the dog's back. The useless bloody mutt. I seriously thought the ghoul was going to put the hat on that dog. What the hell does "how about a boat that's not a boat" mean? You know what I mean? No, I do not. I assume he's sort of saying what's the line between, for instance, bread and toast. So he's looking at his own body and he's saying, when do I stop being a human? Kind of like the ship of Theseus. But that's a weird way of saying it. Is that a southern idiom? So he's talking to the dog and then he gets a flashback of his wife packing their keepsake box for the vault. I love the way that Cooper Howard is looking at his wife. He's just like, you dirty rotten so-and-so. I like how he implies to her that maybe the bombs won't drop, knowing that she knows that they will. I guess that's his last attempt to see if she has some humanity left. And she doesn't. She's too far gone. Okay, this scene is weird. First is the annoying congresswoman. I assume she's meant to be representing the quality of candidates that are left after removing corporate influence, but she's boring to us too. Notice how when she drops her cards, the microphone still picks her voice up? And then there's Robert/Anthony House camping out in the toilet. What was his plan if Cooper Howard didn't need to piss? And why is House even approaching Cooper Howard? Does he not have hired goons? It's very cryptic, this scene, but I feel like it's House making clear that he doesn't trust the American government to protect the people, so he wants all the resources put into his plan to protect the people. Can somebody tell me why, if the West Coast Brotherhood were going to rebel against the East Coast Brotherhood, why would it matter that one of the East Coast Knights was present? What would stop them from just killing him? They could claim that he crashed his vertibird or something. And if the East Coast Brotherhood doesn't believe them, well, they're going to war anyway. I'm with Maximus. Kill him. You have two options. Give the relic to the Commonwealth or kill him. That's it. I feel like Maximus is going to have to go rogue. I think he has to kill Quintus. Maybe if he killed Quintus, he can blame the death of Harkness upon him. Harkness is about the only character so far that has really had any kind of personality. He may be hamming it up, but it's a bit of a breath of fresh air, especially around Maximus, although this hot dog thing needs to stop.
Hot dog.
Don't try to make hot dog a thing. Wow, the ghoul is just teleporting around everywhere. He's gone from the hospital to the Legion camp to Camp Golf in half a day. So the ghoul just explicitly stated to the dog that he might need Lucy further down the line. So he acknowledges that it's in his best interest to protect her. So please, don't write him so that he lets her put herself in danger. Especially when a few simple words could prevent everything. So Camp Golf is deserted and Victor's in there. And somehow the ghoul knows Victor. I guess when he visited Mr. House with his wife, he must have ran into Victor. This universe gets smaller and smaller by the day. So Victor lets the ghoul know that the NCR is up in the hills. I don't know why the ghoul didn't try to get Victor to help him, but I guess Victor is his own man. Harkness makes a pretty convincing argument. This is probably the best scene in the entire series so far. There's stakes, there's conflict, there's a defined choice where both options have their appeal. Avoid a war, betray your chapter, join another chapter that seems to value warriors more than clerics. They've located some unauthorized automated activity, so it's time to put on a show. So the NCR turns out to be a couple of stragglers who are boxed in by the Legion. Somehow, I doubt that, given the state of the Legion, but okay. If they say they're boxed in, they're boxed in. But when she hands the ghoul the medication, he tips it into his hand and one of them drops onto the ground. This is what I mean when I talk about how poorly made this show is. Like the scripts are the first draft and they just roll with it. And that was the first attempt at that shot and they just rolled with it even though he clearly dropped a vial of medication onto the ground. It's just lazy. I mean, look at that shot. Look at how far away he is from anything. It would take tens of hours to get to the other side of that vast open wasteland, especially at the pace he walks. Yet Lucy is waiting on a cross, being crucified. Harkness and Maximus come across a malfunctioning Securitron and we get a pretty sweet combat scene between two sets of power armor and a robot. I really appreciate that Kumail Nanjiani can actually emote while wearing the power armor suit. He actually looks like he's engaging with his surroundings while Maximus just looks like he's staring into the void. The costumes and the props really come together in this scene. The power armor looks fantastic and the super sledge looks pretty sweet as well. I'm not normally a mindless violence kind of guy, but when you're fed slop, sometimes you gotta take what you can get. Lucy's almost on the edge of delirium. She's getting double vision and feeling listless. Thankfully, the ghoul arrives just in time. They're still harping on about this Caesar Kaiser thing. They really think it's such a great line they've used it twice. Even Fallout New Vegas says it's Kaiser. Maybe the ghoul is just mistaken because that was what they said back in the days when he was making movies. Remember, he was in a Roman themed movie? So the ghoul is trying to negotiate Lucy's release for some information. But my god, Macaulay Culkin is not imposing at all. He sounds like a child. Terrible casting. Meme casting. The ghoul is going to tell the Legion where the last remnants of the new California Republic are hiding. Even though they just said themselves that they're boxed in by the Legion. Is it possible to box someone in without knowing where they are? I kind of feel like those two knobheads on the hill basically have no threat from the Legion, as they have bigger fish to fry. Charlie has a speech at the Veterans Club about how if all the information you have points towards necessitating an action, then you have to take the action no matter how much you would prefer not to. He also gets a nifty Zippo lighter, which he promptly gives to Cooper Howard. That could come in handy. That's another good scene, a little corny, but again, it's showing that if there's a choice that you have to make that might be uncomfortable, you've got to weigh up inside yourself whether you feel like it's worth it. Relevant to both Cooper Howard and House, and the ghoul and Lucy. Charlie also has a nice little line about how people will reward you for doing a good thing and overlook the bad thing. This scene with the exploding dynamite barrel kinda confuses me a little. Actually, a lot. First of all, I thought it was black powder that came in kegs. I thought dynamite came in boxes, but we'll overlook that. So as the ghoul is retrieving Lucy, he spies these barrels of dynamite. He doesn't touch them. He just walks straight past them. During the scene, it cuts backwards and forwards between the Veterans Club and current day, and the ghoul is handed the lighter and told that sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, even if it feels like the wrong thing to do. If it saves the lives of people you love, that's all that matters. So I thought that he'd use the lighter that was the reward for doing the horrible things to ignite the dynamite. But there is no possible way that could have happened. Not the way this scene is shot. On the second watch, I realised that the ghoul had another gun on him, and I thought maybe it was a scoped rifle and he was going to shoot the barrels of dynamite. But no, he's looking at the lighter in his hand when the barrels blow up. Which leads me to think that the writer wants you to realise that the lighter and the barrels exploding are connected, but they can't be. It's the weirdest thing. So it's a pretty good scene except for the non-ignition of the barrels. It's maddening how close this show gets to being good, but my brain just can't sit there and soak it up. I have to think about these things. Someone, please, explain to me how the barrels done got exploded. Please. So now the Legion factions are in open combat and the final wishes of the previous Kaiser are now destroyed. They'll have to work out who's their leader on their own. Geez, that's tropey having that bottle spinning around. How long did they wait until after the battle started before they decided they'd better hide? Oh well, that's just a small nitpick. The rest of this scene is great. Xander divides the kids up between ghouls and smooth skins, meanwhile Maximus pleads with him not to kill them. But Xander says, hey, it's in the Codex, they're abominations. I'm a little bit surprised that Thaddeus didn't try to clarify something from the Codex or try to use his Brotherhood knowledge to work his way out of it, but in the end, Maximus uses the super sledge to cave Xander's head in. Seeing as that was Maximus's ride, I guess he's now siding with the ghouls. I wonder if he'll join up with the NCR remnants, or maybe Lucy and the ghoul. Anyway, that's episode 3 of season 2 of Fallout. It started out pretty rough with a lot of scenes that made zero sense if you gave them even the slightest amount of thought, but I feel like it pulled it back together enough at the end and had some actual stakes for a change. People had to make decisions that had weight, and they made decisions that made sense. The Legion were a complete waste of time, and Macaulay Culkin was probably one of the biggest miscastings in TV history. What a little weaselly wimp. So at the end of episode 3, Maximus is back with Thaddeus, and probably on the run from the Brotherhood. Lucy and the ghoul are back together. In fact, They're basically back where they started at the beginning of the episode, on their way to find Lucy's father. We didn't get a skerrick of Norm and Bud's buds, which is probably for the best because I don't have a good feeling about them. That just seems like it's going to be a repeat of Lucy leaving the vault. I'm actually more interested in the pre-apocalypse Cooper Howard stuff. I want to see what ends up happening with him and Mr. House. I probably sound like a broken record, but the props, the sets, and the costumes are all top-notch. I feel like that's kinda how it should be because the main roadblock to having those things is money, and this show is made by Amazon, so it has plenty of cash. But credit where credit is due. So all in all, an okay episode of Fallout. I'm gonna give this episode a 7 out of 10. It could have gone to an 8 out of 10, but there were just some stupid things that characters did, tropes that were repeated again and again, such as people withholding important information from their allies, and that whole barrel thing at the end, pardon the pun, just blew my mind. How the hell did those barrels blow up? So that's why it's a 7 and not an 8. Maybe the next episode will finally tip the scales and I can enjoy one of these episodes for a change. Fingers crossed. Anyway, now that Christmas and New Year's are over, hopefully I can get back to doing weekly videos and not being a week and a half behind. If you want to chat about Fallout or TV shows and video games, come and see me over at my YouTube gaming channel, MicksysPCGaming Live. I'm currently playing through Expedition 33. I both love it and hate it. So come and watch me scream at the computer and go troppo in triumph. I'm also on Twitch over at twitch.tv/MicksysPCGaming. You can also find me on Patreon. Join now, it's free and it feels good. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one. See you later.